Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Lanen Attempts to Teach You Weaving. I'll do my best. Today we're going to work on what is called a complementary-warp pickup. It's a type of pickup weaving where both sides are essentially the same. They'll be opposite in color, but there's no good side and bad side per se. We'll use a couple different basic colors of fiber today. I've been looking at a lot of natural fleece lately and working with some of that, doing some null binding. So I was intrigued by the idea of just doing some black, white, and gray today to, mimic the color of the snow we're now getting here where we live. Our resource guide today is going to be Complementary-warp Pickup by Laverne Waddington. This is the book I use to learn pickup weaving. I think it's a pretty good resource. And once you get the hang of it, you can kind of adjust it to your own level of comfortableness. But I use this to branch out into some more complex weaving because it gave me a really good basic foundation. I still use things like YouTube tutorials to help me out when I get stuck. And she does some of those online tutorials too, which is nice. So complementary-warp pickup is working in pairs. There's always going to be two threads that work together. And you'll see this a little more when we get to the actual pickup part. But you're either going to have one up or one down. Never both at the same time. So everything's done in an even number. You have one open and one heddled thread, and you're either choosing one or the other while you're making your pattern. She goes through this pretty well. In her version, all her dark threads are open, they're unheddled, and her light threads are heddled. So I stick to that when I'm working with this pattern book because it keeps me on track. I looked through our book today and I decided on a new pattern that will use 8 working threads, so you'll have a total of 16 threads that you're working with, but you'll only be functionally picking up or putting down 8 of them. And today I'm going to choose this pattern. Woo! Oh, it shows up a little better on camera than it does when you look at it in person, at least in my mind. Her pattern charts give you more length than you need, so you kind of know what's going on, but your active space is between the 2 stars. So you could go all the way up if you wanted, but really what you're starting here and ending here and then looping back around to start back at this first star. When we're all done, it's going to make a pattern kind of like this. I was into these kind of swirly patterns. It looks a little bit like card weaving to me, which is nice. So we're going to work on those. Get my bookmark out of the way here. What we're going to need to start as our supplies. As I said, I've got some, I'm actually going to do the main pattern in black and white, and I'm going to use gray as kind of a border space. We'll also need 8 heddles, the heddle threads that are going to hold our strings where we want them to be. I'm going to throw them on the ground. Since we have a total of 16 threads, half of those will be heddled, the other half will not. And I just realized I'm going to need a few more for our edge pieces too. So I've got all the pieces and parts that we need, I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll find out, together with me here, as well as my loom. I'm using my shorter loom today because I have a commission project coming up on my taller loom that I'll need my taller loom for. I actually prefer doing pickup on my taller loom, but this one works just fine too. Your working shed's just a little smaller, but that's all right. So I'm going to adjust my tension peg here. I finished a project. I'm going to pull it almost all the way to the front. Hopefully you can see that. So you can see on the slide here, it was back here because I just finished a project. So now we've brought our tension peg back towards almost the front. You can see I left a tiny bit of space there. And then we'll get warping. So the nice thing about this is warping's fairly easy. You've only got a couple of colors and you don't have a complex color pattern to follow like you might be doing in an inkle. So it's just alternating dark and light until you've warped your whole loom. So I will get started. We'll fast forward that part and get to the interesting thing, which is the pickup piece. Okay, great. Let's see how we did. We've got that nice looping pattern that we're looking for. Doesn't look like I made any mistakes, which is great. Let me show you what I was talking about with the pairs of threads. So as you can see here, I've got, this is tricky, gray as my border, but then I've got these pairs of black and white threads. So we have 8 pairs here. That's what we're looking for. Here is a placeholder just for a minute. So here's our pattern, right? So she instructs us up at the top to start at the bottom, work all the way up to the second star, and then we just repeat down at the first. So that's what we're going to do. When you're reading one of these pattern charts for this basic pickup, the color it's showing you is the color you're going to be pulling to the front. So in this case, we've got light and dark. So in my case, it's going to be white and then black, black, white, white, black, black, white, and so on all the way to the top. And you still change sheds between each weave. So let's try that. We're going to try, hopefully there. Now you can sort of see the pattern. I always use a bookmark to help me remember where I am, because otherwise I will forget. I decided to go get my weaving swords because I think it'll make it a little easier for me to show you what I'm talking about when I talk about the pairs. So you can see it's called your picking cross. Gives you a little pattern, but it brings both sets of threads up to the top so you can see what you're doing. So we've got a pair of black and white, a pair of black and white. Now it makes it a little more easier to get to which piece you want. Sometimes I just use one, and my other one, I use my hand as the other picking cross. You'll figure out what works. I actually did this for quite some time before I even remembered I had these weaving swords. So I sort of know how to do it both ways, but it can make it easier on the eyes. So we're going to have one white, skip over the first black, then we're going to pick up the next 2 black. The next 2 are white. And then we're skipping this next black because it's connected to the white we just picked up. So then we've got 2 more that are black and 1 more that's white. And then of course we always want our edge. So there's our first row. Pull out this sword. Gonna go ahead, push down that line. I squiggle my fingers in there. Take our shuttle. And that's the string pattern we want to keep, so I will pull that through. And we'll bring it down. Now we have black on top. And we'll bring our white threads up from the back so we can see what we're working with. These swords are a little big for this loom. I probably, when I do this on my own, wouldn't keep using them. Hopefully too much of our gray doesn't show through the back. I didn't think about that too much. Now, the important thing not to forget is we finished a row. So we just did the first row. Now we're going to move up to the next. Don't forget to advance your pattern. That happens to me a lot. Sometimes you have to mark it off. If you've got a lot going on, you want to make sure you don't miss something. That can certainly help. That's why this is nice, but you'll get into a rhythm of as soon as you finish that row, you turn the pattern. Usually I do it right after I pick it. All right, so we've got 2 black, 4 white, 2 black, and then of course our gray. So we're going to take out our weaving cross. I'll move my pattern forward now. You can't really see that, but I did. And pull it down. Pull our fiber through. Whoop. And we've got our second pattern row. So you can see why using the weaving swords on this loom is a little tricky. They're kind of large for this space. It's often why I would use just my hands or my taller loom for these kind of pattern works. I'm gonna stick this through, but I think I'll try it with my hand for this next row. Yeah, okay. So my next row is going to be pick up my gray, 1 black, 2 white, keep losing my pattern, 2 black, but be sure to skip that black that's to the left of your white string, because you only ever want to pick up 1. 2 white, and then 1 more makes a black. You can always count your threads and see how many you have. You only ever want to have 8 on this pattern. And then, uh-oh, something's going funny with my edge here. That looks about right. Advance my pattern. Put a heavier weight on my pattern so it doesn't go anywhere. Slide my shuttle through. I do have a smaller shuttle that I could use, and I might switch to that. I don't need one that's quite so big, and when I'm doing such a tight fit. So our next row is going to be, I just realized you can't actually see the pattern forming, so I'll zoom it back in just a second. Our next one's a little trickier. So we have the black shed up, but we actually start with 2 white. So we're going to pick our gray, and then we'll go with, fighting with this edge here. Get my hand out of the way. Okay. We got our gray. We've got 2 white, 4 black. So since we just picked a white, we're going to skip over the next black. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 2 more white. And then a gray. Get my hands out of the way. Pull my pattern down. Slide my finger back in to hold my place. Shuffle up our pattern. Thread through. Great. Now I'm having some trouble with these edges. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm trying to film, so it's going to be fussy. Let me move this up so you can see what we got there. See? Now we've got a pattern. Starting to go. Great. Pull that down. I'll use the sword here to get my next row. Now I'll probably move this up shortly to give us more working room, but I'm going to make sure you can see what I'm up to. Oh, I lost my pick. There it is. Now you don't need a pick. You can do this just with your fingers. So our next is 1 white, 2 black, oops, 2 black, 2 white, skipping the next black because that belongs to the other pair, 2 black, 1 white, and our gray. Hopefully the correct gray this time. Awesome. So I'm gonna sneak my finger in, pull my pick, move my pattern. That's my general groove when I get going. Now this yarn is a little chunky. It's nice for learning. I decided I wanted to use it because I have a lot of the chunky yarn. And that's kind of why I went for just an 8 thread pattern, to give us something not so wide when we're done. But now you can see we've got like this little V shape, and we're almost up to our first star in the pattern. So this is our very beginning. So our next is, we've got 2 white, pick our gray, the gray we're working with, 2 white, skip the next black, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next 2 white, and then our gray. Pull the thing, advanced our pattern, pull our thread through. Got some sloppy edges here, probably because of my tension, but it is what it is. It'll even out as we get further in. Black, 2 white, 2 black, 2 white, and a black. And of course our edge. Move our pattern up, pull our thread through. Sword down. Ta-da! Now we're getting a nice little shape here. So that's the basics of a simple 2-color pickup. When I have more done, I'll come back and show you what we've gotten. Don't be afraid to try it. I do recommend the book. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll put the link to the book in the description of the video. And happy crafting! Stay warm out there.